I'm going to be the evangelist walking around. Yes, okay, so like Josh was saying, we need volunteers. In particular, we need volunteers who care about treating people experiencing homelessness with dignity and respect and like human beings. So I know that people in this room are going to be people who can do that, want to do that, know how important that is, and also know other people who can do that, want to do that, and know how important it is. So this is our sign-up link. It's not pronounceable, but if you want to find Hark at the Center for Volunteer on Facebook, we have shared a link. I know Steve has shared it. I know Angela has shared it. It's on Facebook. Please go there. Now, a caveat: can you raise your hand if you are a transitional housing provider or a rapid rehousing provider or permanent supportive? Okay, so these folks, you don't have to sign up for your own organization to survey the people who are in your programs. We only have the sign up for organizations that need volunteers from the community to conduct the survey. So if you already know you are at an organization and your organization is taking care of doing the surveys, making sure your staff are going to carry it out, there's not a sign up sheet. We're not going to send some randos to your, we can add some spots for randos to come up to your organization at a particular time. But so if you are at a transitional housing place and your staff is taking care of it, no need to sign up. But if you are at an organization that needs help, if you can manage like 1 or 2 staff people, we would love to have them sign up, because we just want to make sure we have enough people going to the spots we've identified as places where we need people doing surveys. We want to make sure enough people are coming. So that's really important. So again, find Hark on Facebook, and you can find the link there. Or I've been talking long enough for you to copy this down. That's the link to do it. And we really, really need people. I think I was looking last night. Central United Methodist can often have about 100 people at their lunch, and I don't think, and we have like 8 volunteer spots for Central for their lunch on Thursday, and I don't think a single volunteer has signed up for Central yet. And it's like really close to campus. So there's got to be some students who are available over kind of that lunch hour who'd be able to go. So we really, really, really want people to be sharing this and getting more volunteers out, because it's really important that we have enough. Okay, so 4-point in time count, those stinking stacks of pink and green forms that Josh was talking about. Just kind of a quick overview. There are 3 forms, but really the most important one, the one that most people are going to be doing, is the pink interview form. The pink interview form is the one volunteers and staff members of organizations are going to fill out, looking at a person experiencing homelessness, asking them questions, and you're filling that out. That is what, when we think of the PIT form, that's the one we're talking about, and it is pink. That is the one that we ideally would like every person experiencing homelessness to have one filled out for them with a volunteer or staff member on the day of PIT. Now, green is an observation form. We are printing fewer of them. We had a lot fewer of them than we did last year. It's about like, I don't know, we only had about 400 or so green ones filled out last year. We had like 1,000 pink ones filled out last year, so it's not as many. You only fill out a green observation form if you can't do a pink one. You've already tried. So there's a few reasons that you might fill out a green observation form instead of a pink interview form. And one is that the person is asleep. Like literally a person is asleep in a tent and you do not want to disturb them because they are asleep. That's an appropriate reason to fill out a green one instead of a pink. Another reason would be that there is a language barrier issue, and you talk to all the staff and all the volunteers on your team and no one speaks the language of that person. That's another reason to do a green observation form. Again, if you are a staff member of a transitional housing, rapid rehousing, if you're a staff member at one of those organizations, you probably won't be doing the observation forms because you probably have a relationship. You know these people. There's not going to be a language barrier. You're going to know when people are sleeping, kind of thing. But it's still possible that someone's working and you aren't able to talk to them, and so you would have to do an observation. And then it could also be that someone's on private property and you can see that someone is staying on this private property, but it's probably not safe for you as a surveyor to go there. Green observation is what's appropriate. So if it's not safe, if the person is sleeping, or if there's a language barrier issue, those are all reasons to do the green observation form instead of the pink interview-based form. And the last form is white. It is a half sheet, or it's kind of a card sort of thing, I think, rather than a full piece of paper. That's a contact form for people that you are interviewing who want to receive some kind of follow-up from someone at HARP. So we're offering that as well, especially we don't have the time or the capacity to add everyone that we interview for point in time count to also get them on the by name list that day. Because by name list, that can take 15, 20 minutes, and then the pick count will take like 5 minutes, and we just don't have the capacity to do that for everyone. But we want people who are experiencing homelessness that we find on the day of the point in time count to connect with our coordinated entry system, to be added to the by name list, so that we can get people the resources that they need to resolve their housing insecurity and other issues as well. So what we're encouraging everyone is that anyone you talk to, anyone who's willing to talk to you, and that's another reason you might fill out a green observation instead of a pink interview form, is if you say, hey, do you want to participate in our survey today? We're talking to people experiencing housing insecurity, and they say no. You never push it. You're not trying to coerce anybody. If they do not want to participate and you have reason to believe this person might be experiencing homelessness, that's another reason to do a green observation form if they're unwilling to participate. But yeah, so back to the white contact form, that's you can offer to anyone you talk to, just like, hey, if you want to receive someone to reach out to you, to talk to you about housing stuff or any other kinds of resources, you can get access to people at HARP through this method. So that's the white contact form. Does anyone have any questions about the different kinds of forms? Pink, green, and white? No? Okay, great. Okay, so the biggest rule of our point in time count is that to read the questions as written. So what we're trying to do here is kind of standardize it so that everyone across Northwest Arkansas is going to be asked the exact same questions. So we don't want the language to change based on exactly who's conducting it, because that might change how someone responds, which would make the data look strange, which might affect how much money we get from HUD in terms of what kinds of programs. So read the questions as written, and we're trying to read them in a way, that's like Josh was talking about, with dignity, treating people as human beings, recognizing that some of these topics are super, super difficult, and treating everyone with respect. So I think those are kind of the two big, just general rules: treating people with respect that you are talking to, and reading the questions as they're written. So one of the very first question is, are you sleeping in a house or an apartment? And if people are sleeping in a house or apartment, you say thank you and say, if you want help getting connected to other kinds of resources, you can contact folks at HARP, you can offer them the contact form, and then you are done. You only continue to fill out the rest of the questions if they say something other than a house or an apartment. And the reason for that is if someone is staying in a house or an apartment, they are not counted as experiencing homelessness, even if it's not the best situation for them. But in terms of point in time count, we are only allowed to count people who are not staying in a house or an apartment. So if they say house or an apartment, you stop, say thank you, offer the contact form, and you're done. If they say something else, we continue with the question. Yes?
Some of the things that we ran into were people who were staying in an apartment with a family member, and clearly they said it was for like a night or two.
Yeah.
Still just mark them as apartment.
Still mark them as apartment and move on. I would, especially in a situation like that, that's a perfect example of why the definition of homelessness is just the federal definition is so frustrating, because that is a family that is experiencing housing insecurity that can't technically be counted, and they're not eligible for a lot of federally funded programs because they're not literally staying in a place not meant for human habitation. But that's someone we want on the by name list, like in case some opportunity comes up, so that if we have diversion funds, we can try to intervene in that way. So for a situation like Melody just described, if someone is like staying with a family and they're staying something like couch surfing like you're describing, then we really do want them on the by name list. They're just like, hey, if you want access to additional services in the future, please reach out this way and we can try to get you access. Again, you can't do it necessarily in that time because we're anticipating over 1,000 surveys on this day. We don't have time to do that, get everyone on the by name list on that day. But yeah, that's a great question. Anyone have any other questions before we move on? Okay.
Carrie?
Yes.
For the sake of the video, could you stand on that side? Thank you.
Yep.
Love you. Technical question. Thank you.
Yeah, so if they say something other than house or apartment, and there's a bunch of different things on there, then you move on to question or to 2 here, which is answering questions, the rest of the questions Now the HUD guidance, because the form is for a household. In a household, it feels, Allie and I are discussing this, like it feels gross to call it a household. We're literally talking about people who don't have a house, they don't have a home, but to talk about what people in your family unit who might be staying together, it might not be a house, it probably isn't. But the guidance is like to answer all the questions for person one and then come back and do it all for person two in the household and then all of that. And when I did it last year, I thought it's just a lot easier to be like, okay, how old are you? And then the other person in your house, and then your kid, great. And then, and to go like that. So that's fine, but the instructions say to do it that way. And I'm trying to copy exactly what HUD tells me to, but it just went a lot faster when you did everyone in the household. But then you finish the PIT interview form, the pink one, and then same thing, you offer the contact form if they want to receive any kind of contact following up, because the pink form does not collect identifying information. So if they don't receive the contact form, we're not going to be able to reach out to them. And that is because the pink form asks some really sensitive information, like, do you have HIV or AIDS? And so if you're asking a question that is that sensitive, we don't want that information tied to someone's specific name, because you're asking for some, really, really sensitive stuff. So we don't have the capability of reaching out to folks if we only have the pink form. We want them to reach out to us with the contact form. That's why we're trying to offer that to anybody who might need services in the future. Okay, so this is what it looks like at the top. We have, so for location, if you are in a transitional home, if you're at returning home, if you're at Compassion House, if you're at Magdalene Serenity House, for your location, you're gonna write Returning Home Center or Magdalene Serenity House or Compassion House. If you are at a place like Samaritan Community Center, that's where the survey is being conducted, right? Samaritan Community Center. If you are in a team that's doing like street outreach, like Cody was talking about, and you're doing forms that way, that's when you want to write something a little bit more specific. You want to, say like it's the McDonald's in Bentonville on Airport Road, or it's the, something that tells us a little bit more about where the community it is. And part of that is that we might have outreach teams find the same person twice. And if we have a specific location, like, oh, it was a guy wearing a red hat on this intersection, and we get 2 forms for them, we only really need, that was the same person. We only want to count them once. So you're only kind of doing that intersection or address kind of thing if you're doing outreach. Another question that kind of came up last year is if you work with a program, transitional program, but you have multiple sites, I don't even necessarily know which Oasis house you're in or which, I just want to know the program. So if you're in a transitional housing program, like Ozark Guidance, you can write Youth Bridge, you can those kinds of things. I don't necessarily need to know the person's address in the transitional housing program, but we only want that for, again, the outreach, and then you write the program or the location that, Samaritan or Central United Methodist, something like that. Does that make sense, the location part? Okay. Yeah, city, county, we didn't ask for city and county last year, and then it was like, well, duh, we should have that. So, learning. Your name, which would, you as the interviewer, just in case, like, maybe I can't read your handwriting or something in the future, you can figure out what you meant, and then the date and the time, and that, again, helps us figure out where people were at, to make sure that we don't have multiple surveys from the same. That can even happen at the same site. If there's like a whole bunch of people that came for lunch and someone didn't see that someone else had already talked to that person, that can be really helpful to know that 2 people at the same site did this. And then this is the script. Hello, my name is Carrie, and I'm a volunteer with the Northwest Arkansas Continuum of Care. And again, please read this as written so that everyone's hearing the same thing. Can I have about 10 minutes of your time? And if they say no, you offer them the contact form. They may not want it. And then you complete the green form. Again, if they do not consent to participate, nobody pushes it. You're just like, okay, great. If you want some follow-up care, here's the contact form, and then you complete the green observation form. If they say yes, then you continue down. So the next question is, have you recently filled out the housing assessment with someone to be put onto the community-wide by name list? We had that question last year, and last year our by name list was like just getting off the ground. I think everyone was like, what are you talking about? I think this year, a lot more people know about it. So I'm kind of curious to see what our saturation is, like how many of the people we're talking to are already on the list and how many are people we're finding who are new. So you'll ask them that. If they don't know what it is, there's a spot for I don't know. If you don't know what that is, it's the community-wide list of people experiencing homelessness. It's hosted by HARC, but anyway, that's not today's training. And would you like to provide contact information to receive assistance in the future? That's giving people the contact form. If they're interested in getting onto the by name list, you're going to give them the contact form and be like, follow these steps to get connected. Someone will make sure you get onto the by name list. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
I was just going to say with the green form, if they say no thank you, sometimes be prepared to walk with them. A lot of my no's were traveling no's, so I'm sort of trailing to get the description and where we were. So if you think you're going to get a no with someone on the move, maybe look at the street you are before, because you can move halfway down the block and get some stuff.
I didn't have that issue last year, but that's a good tip. Okay, so this was that question I mentioned. Where are you sleeping last night? Again, we've got a bunch of different options. Street, sidewalk, park, under bridge or overpass, emergency shelter. Motel, hotel are actually keeping on here, because we want good information about people staying in motels. If people are staying in motels, it's not a good situation. We're probably not going to be able to count them for HUD, but we're going to hopefully we'll have good info about who are the people who are staying in motels and hotels. Is it families? Is it single people? We'll know a little bit more about that. So again, you would check where they're staying. If they say something that's not one of those boxes, you can write it in other. And for anything except house or apartment, you're going to continue. If they say house or apartment, you say thank you, offer the contact form, and you're done. And then question, yes.
They're staying in a motel that the agency's paying for.
That's like a transitional program. So you would
Even if they weren't there, it's an observation.
So for that particular situation, your location is going to be Genesis House, and it's going to say motel, and we're going to know that is your voucher program because you wrote Genesis House.
Why one of the green ones? They're not there.
They're not there?
They're not in my place. They're over at the hotel.
Okay. We'll talk about that afterward to figure out. Maybe we need a volunteer to talk to them. But yeah, because that's a program that you're offering. It's just and there happens to be a hotel. Good question. 2, did another volunteer or survey worker already ask you these questions about where you're staying? If they say yes, you're just like, oh, you've already done it. We don't need to do it again. So that's just a check on us. We're trying to not double count people. HUD does not want you to be double counting people. So we're trying to put as many fail-safes in here as we can to not double count people. Yeah.
Do we have to start filling all of this out? Can we ask those questions before we start filling these out so as to save a form? Does that make sense? Or so that I can say, hey, has anybody else talked to you with the pink form today? And they say yes, then I haven't even started. Yeah. Is that is that okay? Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily start with where did you sleep last night before asking, do you want to participate?
Sure.
But yeah, you can ask like, hey, has someone talked to you already with these pink forms? I think that's totally fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Including yourself, how many adults and children are there in your household who are sleeping in the same location with you tonight? Adults, anyone 18 or older, children, anyone who's under 18, and you just put numbers there. And then what are your initials? And then what are the initials of other people in your household from oldest to youngest? And this is really just a check, again, to see if, like, they might have gone to Samaritan for lunch and then they're going to go to Salvation Army for dinner or something, and that household might be on there twice. We only are using initials to try to make sure that we don't double count households. Yes, Peggy?
So, like, let's say I'm doing this over at our house with the girls. They don't need to actually tell me, well, there's 3 other girls living here.
No, this is the household. So, unless they're like a sibling group, I guess,
which I figured that was the answer, but
yeah.
I mean, these are official forms.
Yes. So if it's like it's a family that's staying together in a home that we're trying to keep together as part of the household. But like every person at Returning Home Center is a different household, even if they're roommates or something, but they're not part of the same household. Yeah, by virtue of the program, they're staying near each other, but they're not. But whereas like Havenwood would have they have moms with some kids, like the mom and those kids, even though they're together as part of a household in that program. That's a great question. Any other questions? Okay. And then how are these people related to you? The other people who are in a household. So we've got different options there. And then just to confirm, these people are staying with you tonight because you might have a boyfriend who's like with you sometimes and not other times. We are capturing in particular who when people are sleeping on Thursday night on January 24th. That is the night we're talking about. So if you were filling it out, most of this is happening on Thursday. Most of the surveying is happening on Thursday. So this is where you're sleeping tonight. Who's sleeping in the same place that you are tonight in your family, in your household? A couple things are happening on Friday morning. And if you are a Friday morning, you're asking about last night because we're talking about Thursday night. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then how old are you? And then if people are hesitant to give their age, that's totally fine. We really just need to know who's under 18, who's 18 to 24, and then who's 25 or older. That's really all we need to know. We would like to know people's particular ages to see how many seniors we have experiencing homelessness and that kind of thing. But for HUD's reporting, we have to split by these three groups, under 18, 18, 24, and 25 plus. So that's at least try to get that. The other thing that comes up a little bit is if you were dealing with a household of more than 3 people, you're going to use 2 forms. I think our largest household last year was 8, so they had to use 3 forms.
We housed them.
But and then you would just like try to keep them together or make a note on the two, to try to keep them together as part of the same household. It doesn't happen all that often. The majority of our homelessness, according to the by name list, is single people. But for families, you want to, I don't know, I think I rolled the corner to try to keep them together. So that's what you will do for a household that's larger than 3. Are you Hispanic or Latino? Are you Marshallese? Again, we're asking this to try to figure out demographics of our community, what homelessness looks like. We know from the binding list that Black or African Americans are overrepresented in homelessness in Northwest Arkansas. I think the last I checked, it was 11.6% of people on the binding list were Black or African American, which is much higher than the percentage of Black or African Americans in Northwest Arkansas in general. So they're overrepresented. That's important. And then what is your race? People can select all that apply. Don't read, please specify. So yeah, people have multiple. If they say something that's not in there, you can write it there. Any questions about that? What is your gender? We have 2 gender questions. This is the only thing I think that actually changed last year from HUD's template. We have male, female, and gender nonconforming, and then there's a specific, do you identify as transgender? Yes or no, or I don't know. They identify as transgender are also overrepresented. We have a couple questions on veteran status. Have you ever served in the U.S. Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, or Coast Guard? If they say no, you can skip the next 2 questions. But if they say yes, were you ever called into active duty as a member of the National Guard or as a reservist? And then have you ever received health care or benefits from a Veterans Administration Medical Center? Okay, so these questions can sometimes be hard for people to answer. But I'm going to kind of walk through it, and hopefully we can clear it up. So is this the first time you have been homeless? And so if someone has been experiencing homelessness for 5 years, 5 years together, but it's the first episode of homelessness, that's yes. So it can feel strange to be well, I've been doing this for 5 years, it's not my first time. But if you've only been experiencing homelessness one time, but it's just a really long time that one time, that is yes. Does that make sense? So to counter to that, some people enter homelessness and then exit homelessness and go back and forth several times. I was homeless and I got housing and then I lost it. That's 2 episodes. So first time, you might have lost your housing this morning, or you might have lost it 10 years ago or something. So that's episodes. The second, number 18 here, how long have you been homeless this time? And then only include time spent staying in shelters or on the streets. So again, in that example that I talked about, this is the first time I've been homeless, but I've been experiencing homelessness for 5 years. And we have days, weeks, months, years, because some people it will have happened 2 days ago, and some people have been experiencing homelessness for years. So you can fill out whatever time duration is appropriate here. And we do this in part because the federal definition of chronic homelessness includes a duration component. So it's either continuously experiencing homelessness for a year or more, or you have 4 episodes that are distinct of homelessness, and then some of that time adds up to it. Anyway, we have to ask questions like this to answer the federal government's questions about chronic homelessness. So I just want to make sure it's clear what we mean by what is an episode is your first time, and then how long. So again, this time means since the last time you lost your housing. How long have you been experiencing homelessness this time? Does that make sense? Okay. Including this time, how many times have you been homeless in the past 3 years? So that is since January of 2016. So sometimes it's helpful to give people that starting point, like, okay, since January 2016, how many times, like how many times did you have housing and then lose it? That's what we're asking. So again, it could be one time, but it's been the whole 3 years, or you might have been experiencing homelessness, lost it, if you had housing, lost it. Or sorry, you didn't have housing, then you got housing, and then you fell back into homelessness. That's 2 episodes. And then if you add up all the times you've been homeless in the last 3 years, how long have you been homeless? So that's just like, since January of 2016, you had 2 episodes. The first time you were experiencing homelessness for a whole year, and then this time it's only been 2 months. That is what, 14 months? A year and 2 months. You can write it however you want. Does that make sense? So you're adding up all those different episodes together.
These are literal homeless, not out shopping or.
Right, yeah, so it has that definition. It's only staying in shelters or on the streets. So that's transitional housing, emergency shelter, or literally in a place not meant for human habitation. There is this kind of preamble to the next set of questions because they are the most sensitive, and I do encourage you to read this to kind of prepare people like, hey, I recognize that some of these are tough, and people can also refuse any question. They can absolutely refuse the question. So if they say they don't want to answer it, that is fine. You just want to mark, I don't know, or refused. If they refuse to answer a question. So the next set of questions are asked about sensitive topics. You don't have to answer any questions that you don't want to. However, your answers will be combined with the answers of other people who take the survey and used to help provide better programs and services to people experiencing homelessness. Please tell me if any of these situations applies to you. Do you drink alcoholic beverages or use drugs, illegal or prescription for non-medical reasons? There's yes, no, or I don't know, refuse. Do you have psychiatric or emotional conditions such as depression or schizophrenia? Yes, no, or I don't know, refuse. And then do you have a physical disability? This can include something that substantially limits one or more basic physical activities such as walking, climbing stairs, reaching, lifting, or carrying. And that can be yes, no, I don't know, refused. This does not mean they have a diagnosis. This is like something that is like that's why we have that clarification. Like if it's hard for you to walk, climb stairs, reach, lift, or carry something, then we're going to check yes on that. This does not mean that I have a diagnosed receiving SSI kind of disability. This is if something is impacting your ability to live your daily life. Yes.
So when we're referring to the transitional living on question 21, so they come into the transitional to not use. So on that day, on Thursday, when we're asking, have you drank or have you used? Obviously, that's going to be a no. So it's just looking, am I on the same wavelength on that question?
Yes, even though this is asking about right now. This is not like, have you ever in your life? This is asking about right now. Are you a person this applies to? Absolutely. Good question. Any other questions? Do any of the situations we just discussed, so that was substance uses, mental health disorders, and then physical disabilities, do any of the situations we just discussed keep you from holding a job or living in stable housing? And you can check which of those, or none of these keep you from holding stable housing, or you can say, I don't know. And it can differ, again, because we have the different columns for different people in the household. It could differ for different people in the household. And then 25, have you ever received special education or special ed services for an extended period of time? This is, someone might be 55 years old. We're just like, hey, like back when you were in school, did you receive special education services? That's another example of a population that's overrepresented in homelessness, or people who receive special education services. I think it's something, it was like a really high percentage of people. Last year, it's like 26% or something had received special education services. So that's something, again, we're not asking about right now, are you receiving special education services, just ever in your life. And then 26 is, do you have AIDS or an HIV-related illness? And the last one, have you ever been physically, emotionally, or sexually abused by a relative or another person you have stayed with, such as a spouse, partner, brother, sister, or parent? And it's very strange, and I don't understand why this is the last question. You're just like asking this, and it's like all the trauma, and you're like, okay, bye. But that was the survey we have. So that's how HUD wrote it. But again, we are treating people with dignity and respect, and giving them the space to really be able to answer yes or no is really, really, really important. We need to get more funding. We need people to be paid back for for housing people who have lost their homes because of abuse or trauma. And we that's how we get that kind of funding, is we're able to say this many people have experienced it. And then those are all the questions I have for you. We realize that some of the topics covered are personal and can be difficult to talk about. We appreciate your willingness to participate. Thank you for taking the survey. And this is just a reminder, if they're interested in receiving follow-up or being added to the community-wide bind list, give them that white contact form and tell them to reach out when it's convenient for them to do so. That is the whole pink form. Does anyone have any questions? Woo! Pink form, okay. This is what that contact form looks like. Oh yeah.
So if somebody, like, let's say they fill out like half of the form and then they get to some really difficult questions and they like don't want to fill out any more of the form, what would we do? Would we then switch to the green form or just leave what we have and turn that in?
Leave what you have and turn it in. That's a great question. And I say that because, like, and that's only if you've kind of gotten through that first, because you're going to have age on there. You're going to have because of the age and demographic, like race, ethnicity stuff is really early. You're going to have better information from just that first little part than we will in the observation form. So yeah, great question.
Get the forms we can take with us today, some samples.
We're gonna bring it to you.
Like when-
Yeah, Crystal will.
Yes, Angela.
So I have a question for Steve. Could you possibly email out the link to the volunteer as well as a PDF of the form so that way people could preview it in advance?
You guys can send that to me, I'll send the Ryan's email.
Yeah. And then we'll also have the link for the training. So we're recording this training. And then there's the training from last year that we can also email out.
Someone else have a question? No, okay. This is what the contact form looks like. So we're just kind of giving you a visual of that, but that's, again, that half sheet you're gonna fill out, or not fill out, you're gonna hand to people who want to be added to the list or have some kind of follow-up. And then this is the green observation form. Again, you only do this if you cannot enter a site safely. The person refuses to do the pink form if there is a language barrier, but again, we encourage you to check with your team. There might be someone on your team who speaks that language and would be able to communicate with that person. But if you check with your team and can't find anybody, then you would fill out the green observation form. And then if the person is sleeping, those are the kind of only reasons you would use the green observation form. And it's a lot shorter, it's only 1 page. We have, let's see, yeah, there's the interviewer, your name, and then you indicate which of those reasons that you're using the green observation form, and then total person staying together as a household, number of adults, number of children, or the number of people that you can't figure out if they're an adult or a child. You would put that number there, and then you put the total number of people in the household, the city that you are filling, that you're finding this household, and then the county you're finding this household. Then there's this. Again, it's the same kind of rule for the pink form. So if you're at Samaritan Community Center, if someone doesn't want to do it, then you would write Samaritan Community Center. But if you're doing the outreach, you want to say, we thought we saw like maybe somebody might be hanging out at the, it was like the northbound ramp onto 49 at exit 73. It looks like there's like, so trying to be specific when you're not at a transitional housing place or a community outreach place, try to be specific about where it is. Is this person homeless? So how certain are you that the person meets HUD's criteria of staying in a place not meant for human habitation? Definitely, possibly, or not sure. What is this person's age? And again, because you're just doing an observation, this is, we're not asking for specifics. We're not like those fortune tellers at Silver Dollar City. They're like trying to guess your age for you. Under 18, 18, 24, 25 plus, or if you really can't tell, not sure. What is this person's gender? Male, female, not sure. What is this person's race? Same categories. And then what is this person's ethnicity or nationality? And then the last part of the observation form is like other information or identifying characteristics, if possible, to include clothing, like any particular, like if they're wearing a particular hat, if they're wearing a particular style of jacket, if there's something like that. Again, if somebody else from another team sees that person later today, you want to be able to determine it's the same person. And other physical characteristics or conditions like tattoos, scars, braces, casts, anything that would make that help us be able to tell if it's the same person that was counted before. So again, as an overview, the pink form is the one we are always trying to do first. You fill out the green observation form only if you can't do a pink form, which would be a reason like, nobody on my team speaks the language that this person does. This person is physically in a place that I do not feel is safe for me to go, or that they refuse to participate, or they are sleeping. And then you offer everyone you can reach a white contact form if they want to be added to the community by name list or have follow-up from someone at HARC. And then this was just the overview. 3 questions as written. Treat people with dignity and respect as human beings. If they're sleeping in a house or apartment, then you check that, say thank you, offer the contact form, and you're done. If they say anything else, then you continue through all the questions for the household and offer the contact form at the end. That is it. Who has questions? Yes, sorry.
I got one tenant that supposedly has a certified caregiver, living caregiver. Should I count as caregiver?
If they're living there, yes. If the caregiver just comes from like 8 to 5 and they don't actually sleep there, then no. But if they're living there, then yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you are relying on what that person tells you too. Like, it's not your job to like investigate if that person's actually.
I already know, so.
Yeah, and you will also, you don't necessarily have to put that person's like unit number either. You can just write the program that they're, the OGC or whatever.
Okay.
Anything else? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We would love to answer questions ahead of time.